Hello Africa, you're welcome once again to AgroLink on AAU TV. And AgroLink is the platform where we showcase and highlight agricultural activities on the continent. And for this episode, I'm here at Trisolace Company Limited, where I'm going to engage with Felix Appiah on the role of snail farming in promoting food security on the continent. My name is Nana Esimambasam. You wouldn't want to miss this discussion. Do stay tuned. You're welcome back from the break. Before the break, as I mentioned, we are here at Trisolace Company Limited, where I'm going to engage with Felix Appiah on snail farming and its role in promoting food security in Africa. Felix, you're welcome to AgroLink.
Thank you.
Felix, snail farming is actually a booming and thriving industry currently in Ghana. What, in your opinion, would you say the state of snail farming currently is?
Okay, with respect to statistics, according to the CSIR, they are saying, in the Ghana Statistical Service, they are saying that Ghana lost, we imported about 15,000 tons of snails as at 2014. So as at 2014, it means that we're only producing about 2,000 tons in Ghana. And that wasn't even production, we're just harvesting them from the forest. So it means that in actual respect of the whole sense, we are not producing any snail for consumption in Ghana, but we do from the neighboring countries, which is poor because snail has been a delicacy in Ghana since infancy. We've been picking from the forest, and like every other thing, it is getting depleted. And for us to have a sustainable means of getting that, that is where we'll look at in the near future.
Okay, so in relation to boosting snail farming in Ghana, what's the rationale behind Trisolace Company Limited?
Okay. At Trisolace, we started and then we saw that there was a deficit, like I said. So why import snails when you can raise like any other things? If we can raise cattle, sheep, why can't we raise snails? So that was the rationale. And then we started and we saw that a lot of our colleagues were unemployed. But our target clients were actually the youth and graduates, who about 90% of them do not own dwellings of their own. So we said if we are to target these people, then we need to have a viable option that does not smell or make noise, so that they can raise it even in the people they are having a shared apartment or homes with, like your moms and people like that. So if you are renting someone's space and you do a full-blown poultry farm, that is no.
Yes.
But snails are discreet, they do not make noise, they do not smell. That's why we targeted snails. And they are a very good form of protein for the masses. And to us, that should have been the most affordable form of protein if everyone was raising in their own backyards. Yes.
Okay. And how different are your operations from the traditional means of growing snails?
Okay, like every other thing, without innovation, you get stuck behind. So we are innovating as a company. What we are providing is commercial status or commercial quantity raising of snails. So other people would just do hobbyist approach where they have one small box. That was what we were doing earlier to test theory, to test the concept that snails are very effective. So we had galvanized boxes that we were using earlier to test that theory. And when we saw a lot of, our research were mostly trial and error basis. So we're doing it and then we see if you give it this, it doesn't die, do this, it doesn't, it thrives well in this particular soil, in this humidity, all that. So we saw that was what we used in our research base, and then now we came to scaling it up. So scaling it up, we saw other materials, some were using blocks. Our disadvantage with the blocks is that snails eat the blocks. So whatever you use, there's a chemical in the cement called gypsum, which is a hardening agent that the snails, to us it smells and tastes basically like the calcium. So we feel that is why the snails eat the blocks, and then that kills them. So always you see that snails are attached to the walls and they die because they are eating the gypsum, thinking that maybe it might be calcium. So we saw that as a disadvantage, and we started looking to other sustainable means like the plastic that we use. So when we go to restructure other people's traditional pens and block structures, we coat it all with the plastic, and the death reduces, the mortality reduces drastically. So that tells us that that was one downside of the traditional mode. And we saw that snails in the wild thrive very well without humans. And they don't need to be protected against centipede, millipede. No one goes to the forest and dry burns the soil for the snails. It means they are resilient. Just the only thing that they are not adapted to is our diseases. So we saw that we did it was by mistake that we found this out. So a lady who was taking care of some of our snails came to work. She had a flu. And then all the boxes she touched, the next day the snails had these bulged eyes. They had big eyes, and they had almost been ejected out of their shells. So we thought it was another maybe predator that was doing that. And then we have cameras all over the facility, so we studied and we saw who took care of these pens. The one she didn't touch did not have. And then even humans are like that. Some people, you know, will have a cold and bring it to work, and a few people will have it, and almost everyone in the workplace will have. So we saw that most of our diseases were being communicated to the snails indirectly without us knowing. So we wanted a system devoid of human interference so much that we have fully automated all our systems. So we have cameras in there monitoring. We have sprinklers that does the drizzling, so no human hand, you know, no touching, nothing. So the snails are left in peace. They only see us when we are adding supplement feed to the facility. So ours, to us, is a bit more safer for the snails in terms of biohazard. That is, we reducing the amount of hazard we are giving to the snails. So that is what we have chosen this, and we continue to innovate. Earlier we were doing hand turning of the sprinklers. Now you can automate it, and then at every given time the sprinklers will come on, and even when you are at work, it will give you a prompt time to water the snails, and then you can do so.
Okay. Right. Looking at the okay, so I want to look at the types of breeds you have in your greenhouses and why those breeds compared to the other ones available.
Okay. So currently in Ghana, as per our research, though, we know that we have only 3 types of snails here. We have the AF, which is the Achatina folica, the AM, Achatina marginata, and the AA, which is Achatina achatina. So we chose the Achatina because one, they are known locally as the Nwapa, and something that is pa means that it is good. That is the best of all. So we also went on the market research, saw on the market that people don't actually buy the AMs, which is the darker one. They are also known as African giant, but these are darker than the AA, which is known as the African tiger, African giant one, you know. So we do the AA because they lay a lot as compared to the AM. So the AA lay about 70% more than the AMs. The AMs, their eggs are larger, like the lizard type. They are larger, but they lay very few in a year. But the AA lays a lot, and they are like beads. They are like pellets of beads, a lot of them in clutches. So, and their hatchability rate is also higher as compared to the AM as well. But the AM, because they lay a little, they have, so in terms of magnitude, you'll be having more snails with AA as compared to AM. And then when you go on the market too and you are selling AA, people are likely to buy that more than they buy the AM, because the AM are darker and people even think that they are the ones we don't eat. And the AF is even shunned amongst all the snails, but they are the most versatile of all the snails. They are stronger, they lay much more eggs, and they have, in terms of cosmetics, if you want to go into the snail slime production where it is used for pharmaceuticals, the AF are excellent because they have a lot of water content than the other snails. But they are shunned because of where they are found. So they are found in our drains, our public, all those places that are not really good. And then people think they are not edible. Actually, that is what I eat. I eat the AF because they are free. You find them everywhere. And then it's better for you to eat that than, go and spend 100 cedis on 3 snails, AA or the AM. So we are growing a little bit of the AF on our other facility for pharmaceutical purpose. So we have a client who wants the slime, and then we are growing that for the slime. But for here, we sell them basically for food. So we are doing AA only, the chatina, or the Nwapa, or the African giant, as it is called. So that is what we are doing here because of its marketability, efficiency in terms of egg laying, profitability in terms of numbers, and they are also very versatile. Like they adapt well to the environment than other snails do. So that is why we raise a.
Okay. Right. And looking at your greenhouse method that you're employing snail farming, let's say a graduate who just completed school is interested in venturing into this industry. How costly is this venture, and what should they expect before they even think of venturing into it?
Okay, so the only thing that costs you is passion. What we started with passion. And then we started and we met entities like British Council, GIZ, all these entities. What they want is passion and the zeal to innovate. So people were doing it in blocks. We saw it wasn't very sustainable. We went into a step further to make a mobile boxes for people to raise in their own houses. So I tell people, not necessarily that you see that we do in greenhouses, you have to automatically start with greenhouses. No, we started from the boxes and grew into this because we have an offtake agreement. So we have a market and they are paying for all these products that you see. That's why we are able to build in a larger magnitude, sort of. So you can also start smaller as an entity and then grow into it by getting gradual growth. By that, we are going to give you free tuition. So we give free training 100%. We are the only entity that does that. We give you free training. We help you start up your boxes or any other structure that you do. We provide you with technical assistance, like it not getting close to your walls, or we give you all those assistance for free. And then we sell you the snails, and we also sell you maybe the snail feed or other things that you need until you can stand on your feet and, let's say, get a larger facility like the greenhouses or other structures like that.
Okay. So most of the agricultural activities are hindered by seasonalities. So there are peak seasons, which renders the prices very low, and then the low seasons where prices are actually high. How do you ensure that you stay in seasons throughout the year? Okay.
So fortunate and unfortunate for us, snails are getting extinct. That's why we import a lot of the snails in Ghana. But the downside is that with respect to sand weaning, with respect to galamsey, with respect to a lot of pesticide being sprayed everywhere. So the pesticide runoff causes a lot of the snails to die. And then that makes sure that there are not so much snails that we get from the forest anymore. So we as a company, we are taking advantage of that and raising more snails to augment. Because a year or two ago, by now, that it has started raining. When you go on the market, you'll find a lot of snails, especially on the Kumasi-Accra stretch, the highway. You go and they are sort of even giving you free snails for buying just a few. But now it is so expensive and scarce that they are not getting it. And our systems make sure that we provide or we grow snails 24 hours a day and 365 in the whole year, because our systems do not let the snails go into estivation.
Okay.
So estivation is the process where snails sense that there's scarcity of feed, water or moisture, and then go into the soil to sleep, sort of in a layman's term, to sleep, so that they can sleep for the whole season and then make sure that they are not getting dehydrated. So at the end of every season, our snails do not go into estivation. They do not sleep. That means more productivity. That means more snails. That means more egg laying for us as a company. So because we introduce moisture artificial moisture always. And our setup mimics the natural environment. There's always moisture, there's always food, because we have the cocoyams, we have the sweet potato, the boko boko leaves, everything in there all year round. So the snails do not go into estivation. That means that more activities, more egg laying. Some people have only one egg laying in the year, but we have twice the egg laying in the year, making sure that we are profitable as a company. And then our systems also make sure that we innovate more, because we are introducing more moisture, and we have sensors and transmitters in there that checks the moisture content, checks the humidity, the temperature, and all that. So yes, as a company, we have taken advantage of technology to make sure that we can grow all year round, and our snails do not sleep like other people. Yeah.
Okay, so before you go on break, still on the costliness, I want to find out the diseases that mostly, you've been in this business for a while, so definitely you found ways to mitigate around these diseases and ensure that your snails are well protected and then in good health for the markets. So what are some of the diseases you encountered, and what are some of the counter reactions you've been able to put up to ensure that your snails are protected throughout the year?
Okay, so for the diseases, being honest, Ghana doesn't really have an authority on snails. So unlike chicken, where you can say coccidiosis or this or Newcastle, whatever disease and virus and all that, we do not have that. So our sort of research has always been trial and error basis. We know that if you give them this is what happens, and if you take it out, this is what happens. So we know the culprit is this. So something like centipede, we saw that centipedes were killing the snails, but we were only able to have that information when we installed cameras in our greenhouses, and we saw that centipedes will stick their venom into the snails and they will die. So we don't have any mitigation measure than to look for the centipede and kill it, basically. So what we did was that when we are starting, we fumigate the place, wait for about a week or two before we put the snails in. So every 6 months we take all the snails out and do the same fumigation. So that ensures that we do not have a lot of losses. And then, like I said, we were able to transmit flu or catarrh onto the snails. So that basically is a no-brainer. You know that if you have catarrh, don't go close to the snails. So there are other diseases like when you see a lot of worms coming out, is dead and a lot of worms in there, then that is house flies. They have laid their larvae into the snails and they eat it out, inside out. And they are also, when the snail is dead, it turns upside down and there's a lot of fluid or liquid in it. Then it means that it died from food poisoning. And a lot of our food are poisoned as people. Ghana has a very poor level of regulation when it comes to pesticide influence. People now even spray their own houses instead of weeding, and then they spray it with weedicides. When you go onto the farms, a lot of the farmers, a few days before harvest, you are not supposed to spray anything up to about 3 weeks before harvest. But they spray all these, there's a chemical called tyrosine that they spray on okra. When they transport it even from the north to the south here, it will still remain fresh, very shiny and green. And people think that is the best. And the farmers do that 3 days before they transport it. It's so shiny that when you go and the dull looking ones are there, you say, oh, I don't want this. I want the shiny one. But that is chemical that can kill you. That is causing a lot of havoc in us as humans. The same thing when you give these watermelon peels to the snails. They eat it and they die almost the next day instantaneously, telling you that the amount of pesticides and all these chemicals in that is so much that the snails die. So we are also killing ourselves gradually, even eating fruit. Earlier fruits were the best things to do.
But now,
now you have to cook your fruit before you eat it.
Okay, all right. We'll go for a short break, and when we come back, we shall look at the health conditions to be observed before growing snails. Hello, Africa. You're welcome back from the break. This is AgroLink on AAU TV, and you can join this discussion on our social media platforms such as Association of African Universities on Facebook and YouTube, as well as to leave your comments and suggestions. You're welcome back from the break, Felix.
Thank you.
Okay. So like all other agricultural avenues, there are sanitary measures to be observed to ensure that you get the maximum yield, as well as ensure that your produce are ready for and consumable by the consumers. I want to find out some of the sanitary conditions you put in place or since you started, and some of them that you've adopted to ensure that your snails are well protected and consumable.
Okay. So first off, we look at biohazard. As people, we are the first line of worst thing to happen to the snails. Unlike other contrary belief where we think the soil is bad and other things are bad, no. The human is actually worse for the snails than any other thing. So we observe. So when we're going in the greenhouse, we put on our overalls and then we put on the face mask and the nose mask so that we do not breathe directly onto the snails. So as per other mitigation measures, what we do is that we add charcoal into our water, and then that is a detoxifier. Basically, it filters the water and makes sure that it brings the pH level of the water to acceptable sort of levels. Okay. So as part of that, we also do natural remedies like neem oil, neem tree oil, which is a natural remedy against insects and other pests in and around the greenhouse. And then we also do measures like the water in that, and that is a natural remedy that we put in there, so the snails can also go in and not be affected. We put lime, not the chemical lime, normal lime, not the lime that we drink, but there's a substitute, a natural element called lime that you put. When you put your feet in, it neutralizes all the bacteria and all that you have on your feet and before you enter. So as a company, we are very keen on humans. That's why we're trying to fully automate all our systems and make sure that people don't go in when they don't need to. So our feeding is also going to be automatic very soon. We are using water. We have fully automated our water systems, and then we are using organic feeds only. So the maize, we grow it ourselves. The wheat, we have small portions of lands that we do that, and we also do commercial quantity pepper, which is also organic. So all the feed that we do is organic for the snails. We process it and then give it to them. So as part of our mitigation measures, we also give them a lot of calcium so that the snails are very, so what the calcium does is that it prevents cannibalism, which is the snails themselves eating other snails for their shells. So they can stay on one snail shell, lick it, and there will be a hole at the back and the snail will die. That is depriving them of calcium. So we add a lot of calcium as supplements to their feed and make sure that they don't only eat the grains. So the grains make them bigger but not heavier. But the supplement feed, like the carbohydrates, the proteins, and all the supplements and the proteins that we give them, and the vitamins make them heavier. So it is a balance. So at every given time, we're also observing through the cameras and making sure that we have better systems for clients as well.
Okay. And you mentioned earlier that you have funding to ensure that you get the greenhouses going, and also ready markets for your produce. How do you secure these funds, and who are your funders? Okay.
So like I said, the first thing you need as a person is passion. So at the passion stage, we went out looking for funding, and we saw that a lot of these donor agencies have a lot of funding available for the snails and other projects as well, not just the snails. So we saw that there were a lot of competitions that are looking for sustainable means of providing employment, food security, SDG goals related and all that. So we targeted our business towards these ends. So you get all these processes in the newspapers, on social media. We have funders, like we've won funding from UNDP, we've had 5,000 USD, we've had 15,000 euros just last 2 months from African French Innovation, which is the French embassy. We went there and they gave us that money for being innovative. We are also, our first boxes that we provided were paid for by British Council, where they gave us a lot of pounds for every box that we paid, we gave to people as a form of market research. So as a company, we've had a lot of funding, and we continue to have funding because, like I said, we have the passion and we have innovation. So all the young people we bring into the company that we help start up, some of them are very observant. So that is what you get in terms of spreading your wings as well, giving other people these facilities to manage, and then it makes sure that your good work is also spread. So a lot of people are also interested in employment of youth, of other entities, marginalized women. So currently we are looking for a little bit of funding for women, because when we build these greenhouses for clients, they don't have people to man it or people to take care of it. And then we've seen that women, single moms and all that, if you give them housing or accommodation, they are very patient and are able to stay and are very loyal and be able to take care of your greenhouse. So we are talking to British Council and GIZ on that project, and then we are very certain that something like that, or any other donor agency that is interested in, providing accommodation and employment for marginalized women, are also welcome to come on board. But so far, yes, we've been doing excellently well in terms of funding. So there are a lot of funding. Like I said, you go online, there are competitions that are centered on SDGs, competitions that are centered on using recyclable materials, employment. Some people hold competitions to look at processes that can employ more people and are sustainable. And our project falls in this excellently. So not just raising snails, but also being impactful, helping the environment, because the other ones that are at disadvantage with respect to the blocks one is that you also have to always change soil, stir it. So you go pick soil from somewhere, but this is a breathable soil. The things are still growing. So restructuring of the soil every now and then, it provides a lot of breeze as well. So earlier the place was so hot. Why we are sweating is because of the humidity. We are closer to the sea, and then the humidity is very high, but this augments it. It gives you a lot of cool breeze from this as well.
You mentioned that there are some types of soils that are better suited for growing, for rearing snails.
Yes.
So in your opinion, which are the better types of soils, and what are the conditions that should be present in the soil for one to consider it a good soil for growing snails?
Okay, surely. So our setups, like I said, with the innovation comes other adaptation. So we process coconut peat. The coconut husk that you see, we process it. Coconut peat is fibrous, and snails always like to dig and go under. But soil with clay, loamy clay, and clay itself, and other soil like sandy soil are not good for snail raising. Sandy soil does not retain moisture. And then loamy clay sometimes hardens up if it loses its moisture content. So imagine your snail is down there and it cakes up or it sort of dries. It means the snail is stuck there. But ours, even though we're using loamy soil, which is quote unquote, the popular name is black soil, we also add coconut peat. So coconut peat further enhances the characteristics of our soil, making it more fibrous, making it more able to retain moisture, making it sure that there's a lot of organic matter content, which the snails eat as well. They eat all these organic matter content in the soil, and the roots and fibers are able to grow faster. So when you plant things like cocoyam, ours is the tallest cocoyams we have seen so far.
Yes.
Because our tents, the net also reduces sunshade up to about 40%. And that induces what is called gigantism. So gigantism is when you look at these plants now, they are drooling. Like when you go to other people's farm, you see that there's too much sunlight, they drool.
Yeah.
They tend to shrink and go down. what that does is that they are trying to avoid a lot of the sunlight. But in our greenhouses, we reduce the sunlight intensity, and the plants tend to open up more so that they can get more sunlight, in turn increasing fruits production and increasing the production of the leaves for the snails as well. And that increases shade. So if you were to be a commercial cocoyam farmer, this would be an excellent resort for you, because you have a lot of conglomerate, which is the taro leaves for the snails, and as a form of other additional income as well. Yes.
Okay. So you seem to be doing a lot, and you have a lot of fresh ideas that people can actually adopt for their snail farming. And who are your collaborators, apart from your funding collaborators? Who are your collaborators in terms of research and also innovations?
As part of our collaboration, we've worked with KNUST in Kumasi, where we were doing a lot of research. So at our earlier stage, our snails were dying, a lot of them in numbers. And we saw that we did a toxicology report from the KNUST, and saw that was the first time we saw that the watermelons we were giving them were so high in pesticide that they were killing them. And imagine if you spray anything to kill centipede, millipede, and all that, the same thing you are spraying will kill snails. So anything, because snails do not have a vertebra or a backbone. So anything you spray to kill cockroaches, houseflies, millipedes, centipedes will also kill snails. So we almost got fed up with the whole setup until we did the toxicology, which they did it for us free. It's very expensive, but they did that for us for free. So we saw that it was the feed that we were doing that was killing them mostly, and then we've partnered with them on a few countless occasions. We've had some of their students come to our end to see our farms, especially when we're in Kumasi. And then we've also partnered with British Council, GIZ, and all these people, they pay for us to do research. Not directly that they are doing the research for us, no, but if you have the leeway or the money to leave snails in the sun to see what happens to them, that is research in itself. So you know the temperature, and then you look at other forms of trial and error base of research, which we do, because we do not have a lab. So we do trial and error base. You put it in hot water, it dies. You know hot water is bad, basically. So that is the trial and error. So at every given time, we eliminate what could be harmful for the snails or to the snails, and then we use that to do more research. So we've also learned from CSIR, where they gave us a little bit of research in terms of how many snails we have in Ghana, and we also use a lot of their statistics, like when we import snails, how many tons we import and all that, and that has helped us in a lot of pitching competition as well. So yeah, even though we paid for the training, it's
been helpful.
Yeah, it's been excellent, so far.
Right. And I believe there's no waste in agricultural productions, because when one process ends, it begins the activity of another. Yes. So what are some of the recycling avenues involved in snail production, as well as value additions you've adopted to ensure that you get higher values for your snails?
Okay. So we buy a lot of the nets second-hand.
Okay.
So most of them are left in the bushes when people fail in production of vegetables or other processes, and then we buy them and then reuse them here. So the plastic you see at the down part is made from greenhouses that people have abandoned. So we buy them at a very less, in terms of almost fraction, half the price that is sold on the market, and we reuse that. We also use coconut peat. So we go to all the coconut sellers after we've drank the flesh and the water. We also take out that and grind it and add it to the soil, making sure that it's fibrous. That's basically what other farmers should be adapting. So once you adapt that, it reduces mortality to about less than 20% of that, So we advise farmers to add coconut peat to their soil. What it does is that it makes sure that your original soil does not cake or dry up. So always your snails are able to burrow in and out as quick as possible if they need to access moisture or water. And the fibrous nature of the coconut peat makes sure that there's a lot of moisture retained in the soil. And that is all that snail raising is about, moisture regulation. You know, when they lay a lot of eggs, you don't want a lot of moisture to get to the eggs because it will decay the eggs. But if you don't have enough the eggs will dry. So that is the only difference we do. We do a lot of measuring, we do a lot of moisture regulation, and that makes sure that we are a bit more successful than those using the traditional methods.
Okay. Also the value addition processes that you adopt.
At every given time, we also do a lot of monitoring and evaluation. We have never in our lives not monitored the snails. Every day we do monitoring to make sure that everything goes exceptionally well for the snails. So our cameras are mostly there. We have people watching them, knowing when we put food in there, which ones the snails attack first.
Okay.
And that also tells us that they love this better than this, and this at this particular season or the time of the year. So we have been able to innovate and be very science, backed as a company, because we use a lot of these cameras for monitoring and evaluation purposes.
Okay. So is there an association that snail farmers or snail farmers, do they have an association? Do you have an association that you belong to ensure that your interests are promoted?
Well, no. So why no is that most people who claim to be experts in snails do not provide technical support. So we were part of CSR, and because they are government mandated agency, they cannot come to your farm.
Okay.
So that means that you have to be a certain level of farmer before they can come and give you direct assistance, which means that every farmer falls short of that, and I don't blame them, because there's not really so much budget in terms of allocated for them to go to other farms and do that. So earlier we were with them, but we saw that we could innovate well outside that and then do that, because if you call them and they can't come, it means it's not really where it's a one-sided sort of organization. That means we are only helping them grow. So we started being solo, and so far we have built a community of farmers, but we also do not want it to be like other communities where we only take dues and not really. So we are focusing more on the value addition we give, because we will buy back from the client and make a markup on that. We resell and make a markup. So we provide them with market, provide them with a lot of passion and hope that there is a market. So we buy back and then resell and get a markup. So what they enjoy from us, we are now as the community, not really paying dues, not doing all those things and belonging to one particular organization, but we are now like a community where we all share ideas. So each farmer brings their own findings. They say, oh, last time I observed the snail doing this, eating this, doing that, and then I observed that after it did this, and then so once we are also building a database of all that, putting it together so that the so-called experts can also learn from that. And because when you call them sometimes and say, my snails are dying, they don't know left or right for what to do. But we have been able, with a lot of observation and gathering of data, know that this is what happens when this happens to a snail. And when you see worms or this, it means it is this and that. And these are the mitigation measures that we do. So earlier, we didn't have fly catchers in the greenhouse, but now we have fly catchers, which are red tapes that you put somewhere, and all the house flies that come in is attracted, and they get stick on the. We've even caught snakes with the fly catchers. It's the adhesive is very strong, so it has caught snakes, the green ones, small ones before. So yes, some of these measures are through the community that we built, but we do not belong to any organization or association so far. Yes.
Okay. And what are your hopes for the snail industry in Ghana?
Yes. So as per hopes and aspiration, we as a company want to be the leading urban farming company in Ghana, to provide people with excellent form of protein. So we want snails to be as cheap as possible, so that every household can actually afford snails, as it was in the past. that you could go everywhere in the backyard, in the forest, and pick snails and come and eat as a source of protein, especially to the young ones and to the nursing mothers and older people who need a lot of calcium. So snails has a high concentration of calcium, which is good for elderly people with osteoporosis, like broken, fragile bones and all that, and then even young ones who are developing. So we as a company want to be known for urban farming, for producing snails in larger quantities that as per numbers, it will become very accessible to everybody and less expensive for people to consume. Yes.
In terms of the recycling, what are some of the ways you have adopted to ensure that the snail production doesn't end with just the snail farming, but the waste in quotes are reused to ensure that another activity starts?
Okay. So we have a farmer who does piggery. So after we have scooped out the snail, the intestines are left, the shells are left. This is calcium additives and protein in there, which we don't want to give it back to the snails for fear of hazard, like any biosecurity from them eating themselves, basically. So we give it to the piggery farmer. He grinds it and add it to his feed and give it to the pigs. And that is working excellently for him. So at every given time, the client that buys from us, we prepare it for them. So we take the snails out of the shell, and then we have a lot of shells, and then we send it to the piggery farmer for him to also use it in preparing his feed. So that is one important aspect that we do. And we also sell our snails. So we have adapted social media as one of the tools for selling or marketing our products. So we also have a lot of TV, radio, and all these entities, you know, modes of media, hyping the whole, because it's an urban farm and you can do it at the backyard. This is Tansoman. You know, no one thought that there would be land here enough to do a large-scale snail farm, but here we are doing that. So they also help us by also giving us shout-outs on social media, mentioning, tagging us, you know, saying, wow, I didn't know in a house you could raise snails. So this has been instrumental. And we as a company, like I said, also look out for talents. So we have people who are well vested in something called search engine optimization, where they make sure that everywhere people type snails, your names appear. You know, so we have taken advantage of that. We pay a lot of people good money to also market, because we as a company, like I said, we're trained in accelerator courses. We've been to Ashesi D Lab as an accelerator course. We've been to accelerator labs in UNDP. We've had other places that British Council has also given us training in terms of how to manage social media, money, you know, finances, all that. So we are well vested in what we do. And like I said, so far as you keep on innovating, there are other ideas and plans that definitely come with new thoughts that you have. So as marketing, social media 100%. We also earn revenue from YouTube. So we earn cash incentives from people watching our videos on YouTube, and we use that to better ourselves with equipment, with cameras, with all these resources that we use to create content as well. And we get about 80% of our clients from YouTube, because the diasporans are looking for content in Ghana to watch. And we, with our search engine optimization, so when you type snails, we pop up first. They watch our videos. They are earning us a little revenue from the YouTube, and then we come back to them building the greenhouses as well, and then earning revenue from there as well. And we also sell to clients outside Ghana. They say, I want you to prepare a ton of snails for me. I'm in Germany, I'm in UK, I'm in Canada, I'm here. I want you to prepare that. And then we price it and prepare it for them, and then they buy it. So YouTube, Facebook, all the social media. And we also take very good advantage of WhatsApp, the WhatsApp business account, to make sure that we also, so whenever you send us a message, we don't type, you know, like one messages, because we are sometimes contacted by about 20 people in a day. So we send them generic messages which have all the information they do on there. So we are better optimized as a company to hold a lot more resources to scale, and then we're also looking for help in terms of scaling. We are always open in terms of our arms, looking for help, looking for experts, looking for people who have more to offer, and then we'll also be very generous in terms of our, yes.
Okay. And aside passion, usually people enter into agricultural activities for income generation purposes. So what should one expect, or how much should one expect from selling a ton of snails on the market?
Okay, so with ours, we do numbers. So we crunch them with pieces, because if you want a kilo, I can freeze a snail and it will be up to a kilo.
Okay.
But if you thaw it or defrost it, it goes back to about 500 grams, you know, or half a kilo. So I tell people not to buy in kilos, because these are processed snails. And if I give you a snail that is 1 kilo with a shell, immediately you take it out of the shell, you have lost close to 60% of the whole thing. So we don't do kilos. And when clients come and we explain this, they say, wow, that is true. So they buy it pieces. So we sell pieces, and then we make a markup on that instead of doing kilos. So snails are very expensive nowadays. And what we do is that we hold off and sell during peak or scarce season. So that means that we maximize profitability by about almost 200%, as compared to earlier, where we're selling it, let's say if we're selling it for 10 cedis per one, now we are doing close to 20 to 25 cedis when it is in scarce season. So we tell people that there's always a way to make more money, even with the very little that you're doing. So do not look at the pricing per se, look at the numbers and how effective you'll be, because it's better to be a shareholder of Apple with 1% than to be 100% owner of your own company where you don't sell anything. You know, so that is what we want people to acquire, the knowledge first and think about the money aspect later on. That's why the passion precedes everything that you do. It precedes the money aspect, the finances, but the passion is first. Yes.
Okay. So currently, now you're coming to your final words. The level of graduate unemployment is at an all-time high, with many people who are home, don't have any means of earning income, and some are actually depressed from it. What are some of the final words you have to these people? Why should they venture into snail farming, or even any agricultural production in general?
Sure. So what I would say is, with every person born, you have an innate talent, or you know, something you love doing, something you are passionate about. Start with that. You can actually monetize everything in this world now. With digitization, you can monetize everything. I know people who are doing videos with just sewing. Some are doing their painting on YouTube, other metadata places that you watch content and people get paid. So it's not necessarily that you have to be employed with a suit and a tie or you go to the government for employment. We have diversified our portfolio. We have people who are online 24/7 looking for contracts. So currently we have 2 contracts. We have pepper for the Japanese government that we're doing 50 acres of pepper. We're employing 100 people, and that contract was gotten by someone who loved being on the internet. He loved scouting the internet for things. And then we said, oh, if you can find us contract, we'll give you 10%, 15%, 5%. And imagine 5% of 2 million cedis, 5% of $100,000. You know, all these are people doing things they love and still getting paid. And we know people who are also, they spread sort of, they are like the search engine people. They put your info everywhere, making sure that you are so spread on the internet that people search you and find you everywhere. So someone is also doing social media management for other people and earning. All you need is the same laptop you are using in the house, same phone you are using. The only thing you need to do is maybe learn a little bit of experience on social media. Me here, I learned how to code, do website development on my spare time. And I do all our website development. I do website for people and take as much as 6,000 CDs because it is during my spare time. And when you go online, you can type in how to do websites with this and everything, and you get it. And there are places that you can learn how to do all these processes for free. So let's not really dwell so much on employment. And I think why we are also a bit depressed is that we consider employment differently.
Yes.
Employment is basically the end goal of going by, getting money or resources for what you need. If it is housing, accommodation, you can pay for it. If it is food, if it is this, and you have happiness or passion for that particular thing. So like I said, we're doing pepper. We're just aside the snails. We're doing snakes. We're raising snakes because we have a big fashion house that wants the snakes after they are dead for their leather. We're also using the snail fecal matter and other bodily fluids to do pest control, organic pest control, where we spray it at other places and they ward off rats and things that would have otherwise chewed on the pepper. And all these are innovations of other people we've employed. Some are contracts, some are not employed directly, but they earn enough money during the month. So let's redefine employment. Employment is not being employed by someone, but employment is having enough resources to go by end month end like that. So you can start doing website development, search engine optimization. All these things don't need to cost you an arm or a leg before you can be self-employed. And all these donor agencies are waiting for people with innovation to help them pump in a little money so that they can be beneficial and also employ other people who cannot get employment for themselves. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Felix. It's been an exciting discussion with you. I hope the next time we call on you, you'll be able to grant us an even more exciting interview. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This brings us to the end of this episode of AgroLink on AAU TV. And AgroLink, as you're aware, is the platform where we've been showcasing and highlighting agricultural activities on the continent. And this episode has focused on snail production and food security in Ghana with the help of Felix Nyako Apia from Trisolace Company Limited here in Dansoman, Accra, Ghana. We hope that you stay on AATV for more educative and exciting content. My name is Nana Ismail Basam. Until next time, stay tuned.